can you please make sure that he calls her for Mother's Day? And at the time, I didn't know all about this, but I was like, Nacho.
You're listening to the Nacho Kids Podcast, where we discuss all things step family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Hello, Mr. Sims.
Welcome to the Valentine's Day show.
Oh, it's Valentine's Day?
Happy Valentine's Day, honey.
Oh, thank you. Please tell me you did not get me any flowers.
I didn't get you anything, just to make sure I didn't get you the wrong thing.
Whoa, no.
What?
So I got to go buy myself something for Valentine's Day, too?
Look, I just didn't want to get you the wrong thing.
Okay, I'll get myself something.
So I
Don't
didn't
worry.
get you any. Look, you got enough for Christmas to carry over until next Christmas.
Do not judge me. What did you get me for Christmas?
Let's see. I got you. Apparently, I bought you 2 pair of boots.
No. What did you physically pick out and buy me for Christmas?
You know, I do good to remember what I did last week, and you're asking
Nothing,
me
David. Nothing.
You tell me not to buy you anything. You're like, I got it.
And that's fine.
I got it. Don't
But
worry
you're
about
acting
it.
like you got me a bunch of stuff for Christmas.
No, I'm acting like you got you a bunch of stuff for Christmas.
Well, that's fine. I'm getting ready to give me a bunch of stuff for Valentine's Day. Getting ready to look at some more boots.
All right, I'll get you some flowers. I'm going to run by the cemetery.
No.
And I'm going to get you some flowers.
David, that's horrible.
Why is it horrible? They're not going to use them.
Because you're stealing somebody's family's flowers.
Okay, I'll put them back afterwards.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
Happy Valentine's Day to all our listeners. If you didn't get anything for Valentine's Day, go buy yourself something.
Nacho it. Go get you a bag of nachos and get some cheese all over it, some sour cream.
And buy you a bag of candy. Not one of those hearts that's got like the 7 or 8 pieces of nasty cream-filled stuff that you don't know what they are.
I don't like any of that candy. You know the little hearts that had the the writing on it?
The candy hearts?
Yeah, they're like pieces of chalk.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't think you're really supposed to. Well, I guess you are supposed to eat them, but we never really ate them.
I don't think you're supposed to eat them.
My favorite is the red gummies that taste like cinnamon.
Red gummies that taste like cinnamon.
They're heart-shaped.
Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
Gummies, not the little Red Hots.
Okay. Well, whatever they are, I'm sure I got them for you. Let me run to Dollar General right quick.
You will get them for me, don't you worry. What did I get you for Valentine's Day?
Absolutely nothing. Same thing you got me for Christmas. Oh, wait a minute. I can't say that. I can't say that because you got me stuff for Christmas. Even though I said a number of times, don't get me anything for Christmas. I'm good.
Okay, it's February. Can we let go of Christmas?
Well, you brought it up.
No, I didn't.
You lie.
I did not bring it up.
You did. You brought up Christmas.
Nope. I brought up getting me something for Valentine's Day.
No, you brought up Christmas. Y'all, rewind. I got it on air. Rewind. Who brought up Christmas?
Okay, well, if I did, I don't remember.
See?
I don't think
remember.
I did, though.
2 minutes ago, she don't remember, but she remembers what happened at Christmas.
I think you brought it up.
No.
Because you said, I bought you enough for Christmas to last you throughout the year or something like that.
Whatever. Next.
All right. When we go back and this shows that you brought up Christmas, you owe me $20.
Even if I first said Christmas, you're the one that started peeling the onion.
Y'all. I feel like I'm fighting with a narcissist.
Oh my gosh. You should know.
Yes, I should know. All right. If you did not get anything for Valentine's Day, it's okay. We love you. Don't be sad.
Oh, look, I'm doing heart hands.
David's doing little heart hands.
Just for you.
Just for you.
I love each
all
and
our
every
listeners.
one of you. Each and every one of you. I love you.
We do love you. And if I could, I'd give you all a flower.
I'd give you all a big cuddly hug.
And a box of that nasty candy that costs way too much.
We probably got some candy we can give away here. From
Give away candy.
We got Halloween candy we can give out for Valentine's Day. You know, think about it though. These candy companies actually got really smart when they started putting season or whatever you want to call it on the candy. Because if they didn't have the pumpkins and the ghost on the Snickers bar, I could give it any time of the year.
But then the bad part about that is after Halloween, they have to sell that stuff 50% off, 75% off to get rid of it because they can't use it at Christmas.
That's what I'm saying. I could go after Christmas. There you go, bringing up Christmas again. And I could get candy at 75% off and then give it to you at Valentine's Day. But no, they have to put heart-shaped stuff all over it and Christmas stuff all over it and Halloween stuff all over it. So I can't give it to you afterwards without you going, oh, what is this? But,
I don't say that.
You would if I got you some.
No, I wouldn't.
Like,
I'd laugh. I'd be like, I'm proud of you for saving 25%.
You'd be like,
on this $12 bag of Snickers.
Well, you might say that, but I can imagine there's a lot of women be like, you little cheapskate. You couldn't even pay full price for candy for me for Valentine's. You got to go get it half off at Christmas.
That's none of our listeners, David.
Okay.
So happy Valentine's Day.
Yes. All right. Let's move on before you get on another rant.
And seriously, I'm being serious. If you did not get Valentine's Day candy and you want some, go tomorrow. It will be 50% off. And if you want flowers, y'all, last year or the year before, after Valentine's Day, I had a friend that had some kind of awards thing. I got like 3 dozen roses or something for like $6.
Well, we've discussed this before. Like, if you really want a good deal, you always move all of your celebrations of things out a couple of days.
There you go. That's why David hadn't got me anything yet.
I'm waiting.
He's just waiting.
I'm waiting till the after the after Valentine's Day specials.
There you go.
Yep. So you might get a card that says Merry Christmas. Who knows?
Hey, maybe they should start having the Friday before Valentine's. It don't work this year because it is Valentine's on Friday, but they could have a Red Friday.
A Red Friday.
Like they have Black Friday sales. They could have Red Friday sales.
That's not the reason they give it a color name.
Sounded good to me.
Besides, what would black have to do with Christmas?
It's Thanksgiving. It's black because you ate too much and passed out. Duh. It's black because that turkey makes you sleep, so you see the back of your eyelids.
Hey, the back of my back of my eyes ain't black.
I just don't know, y'all. I want to bring up one other thing, the Stepmom's Alive thing.
All right.
We had such a great time. And if you missed that episode, go back and listen. But we had an awesome time and we made some great connections.
Mm-hmm. We got some more things coming from that conference, I guess you could say. We made some great connections and we're working on some stuff with some people that were there to make some things happen. Like, for example, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to do it anyway. There's talks about possibly having some type of conference because people said that they might be able to help with that. Yes. Then there's also talks about having recordings of a men's panel answering, those burning questions that women have.
Yes.
And then there was even talk about somebody helping you edit a book.
Yes. One of our Academy members that attended said that she could help me edit.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least she said she'd help you proofread it. You better get started.
Yes.
So are you allowed to say her name?
I think I am. We're going to say her name. Kelly R.
Kelly R.
Kelly R.
Not R. Kelly.
Not R. Kelly. Kelly R. She is one of our biggest supporters. We joked that we were going to take pom-poms to the Stepmom's Alive conference for her because she is our best cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. No, she is. She absolutely is. Like every single week when you send out an email, she responds to the email and with something, words of encouragement or thank you or something. I mean, it's just amazing.
And it was so funny because David and I got there late Friday. And of course, we're at the airport. We're trying to find the Uber blue lane. It wasn't very specific with the signs. We were probably delayed, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Just from that part. And we pull up at the hotel, get out the little Uber. The guy gives us our luggage, and we're walking in, and somebody's like, oh, my goodness. And it was Kelly. So we met her. Like, the timing was perfect for her walking into the conference or to the hotel for the conference and us getting out of the Uber.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yes, it was.
But it was fantastic meeting her. And
it was.
Got to go out to dinner with her and all this kind of stuff. And
Yep,
You
we
know?
had a great time meeting everybody.
Yeah. And I'm sure we probably didn't use all the names of the people that we met because we met a ton of people. But it was
Yeah,
great.
we'd have to be here a while. This would be a 30-minute intro if we did that.
Yeah. So, and I guess I probably should say shout out to Erin because she dove in and started helping with some email design work and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Anyway, I just thanks to everybody who reaches out and helps out. And I know even well before this, Kelly was like the first person who said, gave us some feedback on the podcast about some things that weren't quite right. And so we were able to fix that. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate the feedback. If anybody else has feedback about the podcast.
About anything,
Yeah.
please do not hesitate to let us know. We appreciate feedback more than you'll ever know because we need it to improve.
Yeah. And I mean, we love the accolades and how good it is and all that, but we also look for people who say, this would be better if you did this, or I'd like for you to consider doing that, or this thing you're doing here is aggravating, whatever it happens to be. I mean, Kelly's first thing was talking about how something that was actually annoying.
Mm-hmm.
It was something in the music that was going on that was a little too loud. And, I'm thankful that she said that because who else, probably thought it, but just didn't say it.
Right.
And then, we've had a couple of other people who've mentioned about trying some different things. So we definitely appreciate that feedback. So if you have any, you can feel free to shoot Lori an email. It's Lori@nachokids.com. Let us know.
Yes, really, your feedback is invaluable.
Yep, absolutely.
And for those that help us, for instance, Kelly offering to help me with the editing of the Nacho book that I'm supposed to start this year. And Erin helping with suggestions and creating a template for the emails. That's awesome. We really appreciate all that.
Yep.
We even had one lady that messaged me and she said, "Where's your podcast?" When they remember, what had happened was I had done it late, and I'm used to, my routine is clicking the next day for it to air.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? It's not there? And if she would have told me that, it wouldn't have been released till the next day. And so I was really thankful that she told me that because I don't like getting off track.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for all our loyal listeners.
Yes. All our little
And
helpers.
Academy members.
Yes.
It's like you're, what is it when you're with the movie Academy thing? You're a member of the Academy.
Don't know what he's talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? The Academy Awards.
Oh.
You have to be a member of the Academy to get an Academy Award.
Yeah.
We should do that. We should do Academy Awards for members of the Academy.
Okay.
If you're in the Nacho Kids Academy, we should have an awards banquet at the end of the year.
Hey, that's an idea. We could do something for sure.
Yeah. Hey, never know.
Yeah.
All right.
I do want to say also, David bringing up a conference. If you could email me at Lori@nachokids.com and just let me know where you are if you are interested in attending a Nacho Kids conference. That way we can have an idea of what part of the United States we should have this in. Not that we're only going to have one in the United States. You never know. We might go across the pond.
Yeah. We just don't know which direction across the pond. But yeah, we do want to have one. We've got some connections with some people. So I guess I can mention who, we're talking about. It's Steve and Charlene, because I know Charlene listens. I think she forces Steve to listen every so often.
Steve and Charlene who, David?
Steve and Charlene Roberts. So I don't know. I was just like, Steve, what's up? No, but it was a blast meeting them as well. But they're doing some conference things where they're doing step family conferences all over the place. And so we made an outstanding connection with them, and definitely looking forward to working with them with conferences they're putting together. And hopefully they'll even do one for us.
And they're just awesome. And Charlene, you have to love her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it is. You just have to love her.
She's all smiley.
She is all smiley and so kind.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're hoping to get more involved with things with them and all these other little projects we have going on. And
yeah, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So what about today's episode?
Today we have a stepmom surprise that has been blending 4 years.
All right.
4 kids total, 2 bio daughters, a stepson, and an ours daughter. Here's the interesting twist. Her husband adopted her kids.
Wow.
And her stepson's bio mom is not really in the picture. There's a whole lot of mess going on with this one.
Oh, it sounds like it.
There is. So I don't want to tell you too much.
All right.
Because I want you to hear it.
I shall.
But I'll tell you, her husband's in the military. In the beginning, they had 50-50. Then they went to court, and things didn't go quite the way they should have. So once again, we get to see the family court system not at its finest.
Imagine that.
So let's get to listening, David.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
There is a way to save your sanity and your relationship, and it's called the Nacho Kids Academy. In the Nacho Kids Academy, you will learn the skills and knowledge to properly nacho, techniques to handle step-family challenges, ways to improve your communication, and much, much more. Visit NachoKidsAcademy.com and sign up today to join other step-parents who are seeing the life-changing benefits of nachoing. Again, that's NachoKidsAcademy.com.
Today, we have a stepmom from Alabama. Hello, stepmom from Alabama. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Tell us, how long have you been blending?
We've been blending almost 4 years, coming this December.
And how many kids are involved? Stepkids, bio kids, ours kids?
4 kids total.
4 kids total.
Yes.
And how are they split up?
I have two daughters that are 7 and 8. We have my stepson who is 6, and then our daughter who just turned 2.
So you've got the full mix there.
We do.
And what's the visitation schedule like with the stepkids?
We have no visitation. My husband adopted my 2 older girls, I want to say almost 2 years this month. My stepson, his mom is not in the picture at all, so she doesn't have any visitation either.
So you have all of the kids all of the time?
All of the time. My husband's also military. So,
oh my gosh.
So he works a lot, so they're always here.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about. Your husband adopted your kids.
He did.
Okay. And stepson has no visitation with bio mom.
No.
Are you thinking about adopting stepson?
I would like to, in a way, just to make it all official and done. But at the same time, I'm kind of, I don't know. I feel that parents are 50-50, they should have equal rights, equal time. And my husband did have that until we obviously got custody. They had 50-50 custody. They lived pretty much next door to each other. They worked at the same place. It was pretty fine and dandy. And my husband paid so much money. And so, of course, I think it's not fair that she doesn't have to pay anything, doesn't have to deal with him, doesn't have to do anything. And he does, because he is the middle child, and he is, I say, slightly not delayed, but, just content with just being him and not doing anything. So he gets the short end of the stick, obviously, financially, when we do extracurriculars, just because it's a lot. And my parents help out a lot with my kids, because they always have, because their dad wasn't very involved ever. So it's just kind of how we do. So part of me feels like hold her accountable. She's had a job for X amount of time. She didn't when we got custody. She didn't have a job. She had been kicked out of the military and everything. So we were just like, we don't care. We just want him to be safe, and we want him.
Right.
But so part of me wants hold her accountable. Every other person in the world gets held accountable. Why can't she? But at the same time, I do. I want to adopt him. Just all of us just, blend and forget about it.
Well, it's more important for you that he's taken care of than trying to make her be the parent she should be.
Correct. And she will never be. Never.
So stepson was really young when you came into the picture.
Yes, he was 2. Yes, he was 2.
So straight off the bat, you had 50-50 with stepson. Is that right?
Correct.
And when did that change?
And actually, when I met my husband, he actually had the child, but we had met at a family friend, like get together for Thanksgiving or whatever. And my in-laws, he was just staying the night with them, but my husband had him, out of state at that time. And when we finally got married and I moved to the same state because we weren't living in the same state because he was military. I moved to the same state with him and bio mom, and they had 50-50. And one day my husband had mentioned that something she had done just made him feel uncomfortable, and he felt like he needed to go check on him and something. And I said, so if you're so worried about him in her care, and she lives right there, I said, how come why haven't you ever tried to get him like custody complete? And he's like, well, because we've already gone to court and we agreed to 50-50. I said, but you have been worried since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he was under the impression that you couldn't go back to court after court was finalized. And so I just left it at that. And we weren't living together at the time. I was in the process of moving there. And he called me one day and he said, I talked to a lawyer and he feels like I have a pretty good case. And so I literally moved in with him. We waited till Christmas break so that I wasn't taking the older girls out of school in the middle of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved there, and pretty much within the first couple weeks, he did get an ex parte for emergency custody. And so he pretty much came to live with us almost immediately. But when they took it back to court for the finalizing after the emergency, they put in some ground rules and for her to follow, but the custody went back to the 50-50 as it was, with her being the residential parent. So he literally did that. He walked out of the courthouse and got a call that we were moving overseas.
Oh, wow.
So he felt comfortable. He talked with I believe it's the county would do random drug tests and stuff on her. So he was in touch with them. She did have to go do our random, which she was like so upset about, and dropped stepson off with us. And we moved overseas with the military. And it was, I believe it was, I'm trying to think of the date, because we left in April and he was overseas with us by October.
Wow.
But within the month of us leaving, she broke the court order in so many ways. So she had moved out of the county because she knew he was a police officer. So she knew people were watching her. And so she moved just over the state line. So she was in a different county. So they weren't tracking her randoms because she no longer lived in the county. So within a month, she had done that. And then she was going, I want to say like 30 to 40 over the speed limit.
She thought she was on NASCAR.
Yeah, she got pulled over. And he's on the small side, like our daughter and him. So like 4.5 year difference. And they're almost the same size.
Wow.
And
he was in the car when she was driving like that?
And was not even in a car seat.
Wow.
And she was intoxicated.
Wow.
And what really got us once we got light of all of this was my husband was never even notified. My husband called and talked to him every couple of days because obviously the time zone and his work schedule. Talked to him every couple of days. Like there wasn't even like a time gap really. And she went to jail. We don't know what happened to him. We don't know. Nobody contacted him, nothing. And then it was, I want to say probably a good month later we got a weird Facebook message from someone we didn't know. You know, it was obviously made for this purpose. Messaged my husband and was like, I just want you to know that your wife got a DUI with your son in the car. And it's not funny. It really isn't, but it was funny because we had just had an argument because he was working night shifts, and I hate night shifts. And I would go through his phone mainly for that purpose. And that morning I was the one that saw the message first, and I go and wake him up and I'm like, hey, you have a message, you know, she got a DUI with him in the car. And he accused me of making a fake Facebook and doing this.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back. You check his phone. Why?
Just to keep up with her, because I wasn't friends with her on Facebook, just to make sure like he was safe.
Okay.
And really, there was really no reason. I was just, curious. And I always say that his friends were more interesting than mine on Facebook, all their statuses.
So you would go on there and play on his Facebook?
Yeah.
I hope you didn't reply to anything and get him in trouble.
No, and that's what he would say is sometimes I would open things, which I don't think I did, but that he wouldn't see. I wouldn't reply, but I think he would, like, they wouldn't show up as new. Mm-hmm. He'd be like, so he's like, you're doing this. I said, okay. I said, don't worry about it then.
So you get this Facebook message saying that this happened with the bio mom, and you let him know he's got a message, and he thinks that you made up a Facebook account to send him that message.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. I said, okay, don't worry. He had just gone to sleep. I said, don't worry about it then. Go to bed. And so he takes the phone, and I really think he just Googled like her name in the county or the state or something. And it pulled up like her arrest record and found all of the stuff. And he just like, of course, lost it. And so he called her.
And you were overseas at the time, right?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
And so it was evening for her. So he called her and like, what is going on? Like, when did this happen? Why did, just hounding her. And she's like, it's been a month ago. What does it matter to you now? Blah, blah, just whatever. He said, well, you were in like AA or some kind of rehabilitation in 2 different places. You're supposed to be doing random checks every couple, whatever, you're not supposed to drink. And that was the stipulation. It wasn't, she was not allowed to drink at all. It wasn't like getting drunk. She was not allowed to drink at all with him in her care.
Right.
And she was like, well, it was an accident. We had gone to the lake, blah, blah, blah. I had only had like 2 beers, or I don't know what it was. And I was driving home. I didn't realize the speed limit had changed, or I don't know. It was just, and she's like, you never have him in the car seat. He is in 1st grade now, and I still have him rear facing in my car. That that's how much of a car seat, like he was always in a car seat. And so he was like, well, that's not what the court order said. I have to do what I have to do for him. She's like, just do what you have to do, and hung up. And then I don't know exactly the time frame, but like I said, it was very quickly for everything. She started texting him like, come get your kid. I don't want him. That's what she would say. I don't want him. Just come get him. You can have him. I know you're going to do it. I know you're going to win. Just come get him. And he's like, well, that's not exactly how it works. Like, we have to be legal. He has to have a passport. Like, I can't just come get him.
Right.
So we contacted the same attorney, and literally like this all happened with less than a week. We got emergency custody again, and my mother-in-law went to pick him up. And she's like, well, it has to be you, it can't be your mother-in-law or your mom or whatever. And he said, okay, we'll see. So my mother-in-law drove like 3.5 hours, like that night, as soon as we heard, to go get him, stopped at the police department, and the police department did escort her there with the power of attorney and court order. And the police knocked on the door, and that was the next thing. He's already in the bed. Don't worry about it. And my husband's like, no, that's not how this works. She's on her way. So make sure he's ready. So when the police knocked on the door, she literally opened the door with I think he might have been 3 now at the time, in 2 small pajamas, and just sat him down on the front porch and shut the door. So then they all had to stay there while my mother-in-law went and got a car seat. And my mother-in-law took him, and she's never checked back.
With this being a podcast, people can't see my facial expressions. And I will just say that my jaw has been dropped to the desk here several times during this conversation. She never reached back out at all?
So after that, he did end up living with my mother-in-law. I think a total did end up being, I think that was like June, July. And I went and got him in October because of all the court proceedings and passports and, laws, I guess you would say, so he got there and was with my mother-in-law for 2 weeks. And bio mom called, and I will say it was not, if I would have been bio mom or stepmom, I still didn't find it appropriate, is my sister-in-law videoed him and his cousin like wrestling. And the cousin they are the same age, but a little bit bigger. You know what I mean? Like, and so, seeing it from just a snapshot on Snapchat or whatever it was, it didn't look good. I mean, it didn't look bad. I mean, obviously, but she called Child Protective Services on my mother-in-law. And that wasn't the only case. Like, she went, I don't even remember, but like named like 4 or 5 different things, which everything was unfounded. And of course, my husband like yelled and screamed at his sister, like, you shouldn't have been doing that anyway. But so did try to do CPS a few times, but never asked my mother-in-law about the child. Never asked my husband about the child. The only thing her parents did try to be like, which they hadn't seen him, and it's a family history. It's like the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, but that quickly faded. And she was like, I don't want him. You keep it, like, wasn't going to fight for him back. And that went on until the final hearing. Then which at this point had been a year when the final hearing finally happened. And then she decided that she wanted, that she was doing better. She was sober, XYZ, final hearing. She wanted custody, which the judge said absolutely not. But did give her some phone calls, and he stated to everybody in the courtroom that the only reason he even did that was she had another child that was older than my stepson, and was only for them to keep in touch. So I want to say it was like 15 minutes twice a week, which when that finalized, it was just a few days before Mother's Day. And my husband was actually back in the U.S. and me, pregnant, and 3 kids were back we were still overseas. He was at some training, and her dad called me and was like, she's entitled to phone calls. Can you please make sure that he calls her for Mother's Day? And at the time, I didn't know all about this, but I was like, Nacho. I was like, not a chance. I told him that, and I said, your wife's behavior, your daughter's behavior. He has some issues. That he's going through, and I don't necessarily think it was from being pulled from mother, but maybe what went on while he was there. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable. I said, I understand it's court ordered. And when his dad gets back, they can arrange that. And of course I was the worst person ever for saying that. So when he got back, they arranged some stuff, which, my husband was like, we're going to get in trouble. I said, no, the judge did not order me to do a thing. I said, you're not going to get in trouble. Like, you're not with the kid. Like, you can figure it out when you get back. So they did do that. And she called, I want to say maybe 3 times. And she was living with her parents. And she called about 3 times and let the other little boy talk. And then it was never, how was your day? How are you doing? Mommy loves you. Like, it was none of that. It was, oh, you're drinking apple juice. Apple juice is disgusting. Oh, green doesn't look good on you. I'm mommy. I'm mommy. And that was the gist of the conversation.
Wow.
And so finally my husband told her, was like, if you can't be positive, if you can't be loving, like, all you're doing is confusing him. Like, don't be negative, like, be positive for once in your life, And all conversations pretty much ended. Which we think it was put on for the courts anyways, but she moved out of her parents' house, and moved back in with the abusive boyfriend that had abused him. That was another thing, was domestic abuse between her and this man. And a few things that my stepson had said that kind of made us think that he was abusing him as well. And moved back in with him, got a job, but nothing.
I'm curious, when you went back to court the second time, was it the same judge by chance?
Yes, it was. It was the same judge all 3 times. For our first emergency, the second emergency, and the final were all the same judge.
So this judge was the same judge that gave her 50-50 back in the first place?
Yes.
I always wonder if here you probably wouldn't get the same judge. So I wonder sometimes if the judges realize the decisions they made, how they turned out.
And when he gave her the 50-50, when he gave it back to her, he stated that he understood, or I'm trying to think of how he worded it. So she was still in the military at that time. She was supposed to be completing what they call in the military, I believe it's called ASAP, which is a substance abuse program through the military, because she was command referred to that. And so she was doing that. She was going to get these random checks. There were to be no men and no alcohol around him at any time. And so he said that. He's like, this is our test. Like, are you, devoted to your kid, or are you devoted to alcohol? Like, which is it? And so when she came back, he was not in the slightest nice at all.
No.
Because that's what he said. I normally would not do this. He said, but since your command's here saying that you're at least performing good at work, you're in the substance abuse program, like, you're in the right direction, I guess.
Right.
Let's go back to how it was, and you have these stipulations. And it was less than a month.
And so how long has it been since she's had any contact with the child?
With the child. So we got back from overseas the beginning of 2018. And since we have been back from overseas, she has had no contact with him. So
almost 2 years.
Yeah, real close to 2 years.
And you haven't heard anything, or your significant other hasn't heard anything from the in-laws or anything like that?
Well, that's kind of funny. Because, yes, we have. Is not even, I want to say, a month and a half ago. And we are still working on researching that. She called my cell phone number, which she has never had my cell phone number. And
the in-law did? Mother-in-law?
No, the bio mom.
Okay.
called my cell phone number, and it was late at night. It was like 10 something here. And I just happened to notice, like, I didn't have her number either, like just the area that pops up on my iPhone. And I was like, I don't know anyone in that area. Like, who is calling me at 10 o'clock at night, from New York or whatever it was. And then it kind of like hit me all at the same time. And my husband's like, answer it. And so I answered it, and obviously someone extremely intoxicated on the other line asked for my husband. And I was like, oh, this isn't his phone. She's like, oh, I know. She was like, it's your phone, but can I talk to him? It's important. And I said, no, you can't. I said, this isn't his phone number. He doesn't receive calls on this line. He doesn't pay this bill. I said, so if you have something to say to him, you can call his phone. And she just like hung up on me. And pretty much.
And that was it?
He ended up calling her, like got the number from my phone and, called her. And pretty much she was super drunk, but called to tell, drunk rambling for one, but pretty much got my phone number and our address from the military records. Like she because she has this social, like accessed all of our information from the military records and added him on her VA benefits. So, and then that was it. Not how is he, what's he doing? Oh, I was just going to let you know I added, because I can still add him to my VA benefits. So I did. And then that was it.
Wow. So she's got him on her VA benefits, but your husband has VA benefits too, right?
My husband is still actively in. So he doesn't technically have VA benefits because he's still active. So my stepson gets, obviously housing and all of that from the military and insurance. So he gets all of that, and we're not really sure if she really gets VA benefits. But you do get, I don't know, about $100 just for having kids on, like for each kid. So if she is getting money, like she is getting money for him if she does have VA benefits. We don't know if she's just blowing smoke to, start something. That's why we're in the process of going through all the channels to try to figure that out. Because if she is getting VA benefits, they're my stepson's entitlements, not hers, not my husband's, not mine, but they're his. And they would reroute those from her to him. So we are trying to figure that out.
Wow. So she's not in the military anymore?
No.
Does she live close to you, or do you even know? I mean, the last time, cell phones, when you got a call from her that time, but we also know that with everybody having cell phones, you can have different area codes everywhere.
No, which is kind of funny and ironic as well, is she had just moved and she was getting a job, and that is why she had was updating her VA benefits to start with. She had actually moved from New York back to where it all originally started. So she was, I want to say, 8 hours-ish from us.
Okay. The last you know.
Yes. Well, I guess that would be her current place, would be about 8 hours from us, because she called like last month, I guess. And that's where she was updating her benefits.
Oh, okay. Does she have a Facebook page? Do you stalk her on there?
We did, but after this when we moved, a few months ago, by the court order, because I have not adopted him, so the final order is still there with that 12-minute phone calls, which we don't allow. Even if she was to call, we wouldn't allow it. So we have to update her with our move. So he did send a message via Facebook and was like, hey, we're moving to Alabama here, just was going to let you know per a court order. And she said, okay, and deactivated her Facebook at that time. And then about 2 months later is when she called from the phone. But I've always had her blocked, like from the day I married him, just because I didn't want her on my page ever, because I knew she was a little cuckoo. But so I've always had her blocked. So I would go to my block list and check, and he's like, I think she either blocked me or deactivated. So then I would look in my block list, like, oh, it's deactivated. You're not blocked. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
But not really, just because my husband's really one of those. I just lives in today. I don't really, doesn't really care. He doesn't care what she's doing. My kid's safe now. She can, destroy her liver and her life if she wants.
So does Stepkid ask about her?
And that's what's, he does not. He did mention something yesterday, which kind of caught us off guard. And so he was not talking when my husband and I got married. So from the first day I ever met him, I've always been mommy, just because that's all he said. Mommy and daddy, airplane.
Right.
So that's all I've ever been. And I want to say it was a good year and a half. He would be like, well, when I was at Kelly's house, and would call her by name.
Mm-hmm.
And would never, he said, Jack hit me with a belt, or I ate cereal and water. He would just talk about something that had happened there.
Mm-hmm.
So my oldest bio daughter is having some hormonal issues. I don't know what's going on with her, but she is very over the top right now. And I think what has happened maybe this weekend or this past week with going back to school, new school, not seeing her papa and just being a girl, I think she might have said something to him. When you were at Kelly's, I was so much happier, or, something of that nature. We don't know. We didn't hear it, but he did say something yesterday morning, waiting to go to school. And I think one of the girls heard it. And then my husband's like, what did you say? And he said, am I ever going to go back to Kelly's house? My husband's like, why? Do you want to? And he kind of looked around the room like, what? And he does that a lot with any question you ask him. What answer am I supposed to give you? And my husband's like,
right.
Is that what you want to do? And he says, no. And my husband's like, I think you're probably better here. Don't you think? And he says, yeah, we're just one family. We don't need to go to her house. It's scary.
Wow.
So that's what made us kind of think. Sisters probably were like, it was better before just us three, which when my bio daughter says that, she says it recently with her hormonal tantrums. I think she means the three, as in me and my two bio daughters, where she got away with everything. Because I felt sorry for her, because her dad just kind of left too. And she got away with a lot. She's a little spoiled.
Oh, I'm sure that's what she's saying then.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, you need to go. It's like, both of you need to go.
Everybody needs to go. Things need to go back to normal where I'm getting my way constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I take it since you, let me ask you this before we move to that. When you thought that your bio daughter had said that to Stepkid, and it obviously would hurt his feelings, how did that make you feel? Do you feel differently towards your stepkid than you do your bio kids? Not that you don't love him, but is there a difference? Is it a different kind of love?
So there is a difference. And that's been one of our struggles with my husband, because he loves all of them. He just loves all of them. And he doesn't understand that I was a single mother with two kids. I had dropped out of high school. I had got married. I then was a mom for however long, and then I was just left. So I had to figure out how to work. I had to go back to school, how to go to work, how to do two kids by myself, and felt sorry that they were so perfect and that he just walked out on them. So that's where the spoiling came in. So, and then my oldest daughter does have ADHD, and she is on the autistic spectrum. So then, of course, I'm overprotective of her because she's different, And then our baby, is our baby, obviously, but
a boy or a girl?
She is a girl.
She is a girl. Okay.
Yes. Stepson is our only boy, bless his heart.
Yeah, bless his heart for sure.
And she was born with a rare brain disorder, which consumed me from 30 weeks to about her whole first year, that I was just worried about the what ifs. But, I also carried them for 9 months. I had, they were all ripped from my body in a different form and fashion. Mm-hmm. And then when my husband and I got married, my stepson and I, because he was 2, obviously, and we were all co-parenting fairly well, I felt like, for that first, few little bits. And we had a really good relationship. Even when we had emergency custody and she was only able to see him certain times, we all had a decent relationship, and he would come and go as we did. But then from, I say that 8 months, something changed. And I don't know if it was how he was treated and the trauma, and then just the shutdown, and then going to where my mother-in-law felt sorry for him and spoiled him, to like coming to our house and then, going back to structure. Or, if she said something about me every day that he was there, and he just kind of turned against me a little bit, in a sense. Mm-hmm. But we just don't have the same connection now. And he's not an affectionate person, period. It's not like he's like clinging all over my husband, hugging and kissing him, and wants nothing to do with me. He's not an affectionate person at all, period. But we just don't have the same connection as we did prior. And surely not the same connection that I have with all 3 of my birth daughters that I've, carried and consumed my whole life with.
Yeah, it's completely different. Now, you said your bio daughter, the youngest, was born with a brain disorder?
Yes, she was.
What type of brain disorder? I'm just curious.
So she is missing what they call, in English terms, the bridge of the brain, which is medical, the corpus callosum, which brings information from the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere.
I've never heard of that.
And I believe it is very rare, or not very rare, but, a couple thousand people, every so often. And for her, they call hers isolated. And what that means is it wasn't something that my husband and I are like a carrier of that passed to her. It just happened.
Right. Now, how does stepson interact with your daughters?
So he does whatever they say. No. Bless his heart.
Good or bad?
Yeah.
Or just bad?
Usually just good. Like if it's bad, he will most of the time tell me. He really is. And I told my husband, it's probably still, part of everything that he's gone through, but he really doesn't do anything bad. It's more like sometimes like he might do things that like get under my skin. You know what I mean? Just
normal kid stuff.
Yeah. Or I like say sometimes like, think about it, reason it out. Like some kind of like lacking common sense sometimes. I'm like, come on, let's reason it out.
Yeah. I read in a Facebook post the other day that a stepkid annoys the stepmom because, like, if they're having tacos, she'll have the lettuce out, the tomatoes out, all the little toppings. And the stepson will say, "Can I have cheese on my taco?" And she said that she wants to go, "Well, do you not see it sitting there?"
Right. And that's and our favorite thing, even my husband too, that he'll wake up from a nap or in the morning or something, and he will walk down the stairs to where we are, and he'll be like, "Mommy, can I wake up?" You're already awake.
Yeah.
That's our favorite.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, let's talk about the grandparents for a second. How does mother-in-law act toward your kids? Even though your husband adopted them, do you think that she treats them differently, or do you see it more of on an equal scale?
She, I will say today, is a little bit more on the equal scale. However, when we first got him back with us full time overseas, she was not. And why extremely bothered me is she was not super overly active in his life before all of this happened. Like she was never just like gung ho grandma. Like it was just, if my husband came into town, watch him. Like she would go and get him sometimes, but it was, she wasn't an overly grandma.
Right.
And then when I got him back overseas, she would text me. And at that time, I'm wondering, I think all of the kids were home, like they weren't in school. And she would just text me and be like, oh, can I talk to him? And then it started rubbing me the wrong way. And I wouldn't reply back to her. So finally, it was a big battle for a while. And I kind of understood the standpoint, but then our daughter was born and it didn't change. So it wasn't a bio thing. They're both my husband's and she was treating them differently. Mm-hmm. And I may or may not have gone a little bit psycho, and my husband backs me up. And would
you like to tell us about that?
They are pretty much equal now.
There you go. It's interesting because I had a grandmother that wasn't my biological grandmother. My sister was my half sister, but we weren't raised that way. But my grandmother, she treated us all the same. You would never know that we were not her grandkids. And I just admired that about her so much. But at the same time, the grandparents didn't choose to adopt those kids. Your husband did. So is it fair to them to feel like that they can't have a different bond with their biological grandkids?
See, it is not wrong. But where my problem was is that my husband and bio mom, when they were married, my husband they weren't married very long. So, and she had another child, and my husband wasn't overly active in his life. He was there and, but like I said, they weren't together very long and he was young. My husband didn't adopt him. And that was my thing is probably if I check Facebook right now, there's a post, happy birthday to her other child that my mother-in-law hasn't seen in years that is not biological. And she's still so in love with him and posts all of this stuff. But you can't but you treat, not only my bio, but then our baby differently. Our baby is your biological grandchild and you're treating this bio mom's other kid differently than you treat your own flesh and blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think it's because you went off on her and went psycho?
Oh, no. She treats her better now since I've done that.
Okay. I was just wondering,
No. No, that was before then. Right. And my parents are very, my grandparents are very all kids. I even take my sister-in-law's, her youngest. I've even taken her with us to my grandparents. And treat her just the same as, my bio, their kid, any of them. They treat them all the same. They don't care who you are. And my parents, they're over the top. I'm stop buying crap. Stop. And they are over the top and they're all for. However, when I went through my divorce, I obviously moved in with them for a little bit. My first divorce or my only divorce, but my first husband. But so I had a 1-year-old and a newborn. So it required a lot of help from them. So my dad is him and my oldest are super buddy, and my mom and my middle, because she pretty much had to take night shift because I couldn't handle her colic and screaming all night every night and getting up and dealing with a 1-year-old. So her and my middle child are, super close because of that. However, they don't treat them different. You know what I mean? They're just a different kind of bond, but everybody gets the same amount of Christmas presents. Everybody gets the same, price amount. Everybody gets a package for their birthday. If she sees something at Sam's Club for my stepson, she sends it to him, and whatever. But they have a different bond, obviously, with my older two.
Right. I know a lot of times people will say, Well, my mother-in-law won't get all of our kids. They only want their grandkids, their biological grandkids. So they'll say, they want to come get stepson 5 and stepson 7, but they don't care about my daughter that's 8. And, you think about that and you're like, well, yeah, that is crappy for the kid. But I'm going to tell you right now, my grandma had no qualms whatsoever. My other grandma, she had no qualms whatsoever about coming to get my sister and waving bye to me as they drove out the driveway. I mean, it was just, that's what she wanted to do, was to spend time with my sister. And, you have to not let the kids be hurt by it, but it also has to be where it's okay for the grandparents to do different things with their biological kids.
Not my issue, but my thing, I guess you would say, with my in-laws is we do not parent the same way. And for a while, and still to an extent, like I said, I had to go a little bit psycho, it was almost like they didn't care what I said about my stepson because he wasn't mine. You know what I said? And so then that put not really exactly them not doing what I say with stepson, but put a wedge in, you don't respect my parenting, you will never be left alone with my biological kids. You know what I mean? Like, I can't help if my husband sends my stepson and lets them do their thing. Like, that's their thing. But because of that, no, not a chance. But if I would let them, they would take all of them. They even tried to get me to leave the 2-year-old, and they know that's not going to fly. Like, I won't leave her with nobody.
What do your kids say about it, though? Do they say, well, why can't we go? Or
no, because what we do, and they're totally okay with this, is so at the time is my in-laws is the middle point in between my house and my parents' house. And also my grandparents live about 30 minutes from my in-laws. So what they usually do is meet in the middle with all the kids, grandparents or whatever. And this is like, we've done it for spring break, and we did it this summer mainly because we were moving, is then after that, my parents take my 2 girls back to their house, and my mother-in-law takes my stepson back to her house. It just gives them not as much workload, and they all get to see them, and then they get to go where they want to go. My kids want to go with my parents, and he wants to go run the woods with his only boy cousin. So it kind of
works out.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing is, I mean, I know being a grandparent, well, I don't know because I'm not a grandparent yet, but being a grandparent is not the same as being a parent. And yes, a lot of grandparents spend a lot of time with their grandkids and even babysit them and things like that. But if you've got 4 kids or 3 kids, most people aren't going to want to take them all at one time.
I don't want to take them all at one time.
Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of people say, well, if you can't take all of them at the same time, then you're not taking any of them. I'm like, wow. I mean, if I'm 80 years old and you got 7 kids, no, I ain't taking all your youngins nowhere.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. My grandparents, they're in their 80s. And I won't, like, even when we're there to run to Walmart or something, visiting, I won't leave all of them there. And I leave the baby sometimes, and then I'm still like, can my grandma even lift her up? She's about 28 pounds. Like, can she change her diaper? Like,
yeah. No, I understand why grandparents are not loading up the van and taking the 5 stepkids to Chuck E. Cheese because, Lord, I can't handle that place now.
I don't go to Chuck E. Cheese. So if my kids go to Chuck E. Cheese, they're all going with my mom. And my mom does, she is barely 50, I think. And she'll load them up and take them to the beach or take them places. But that's her. She's able to do that. That doesn't mean everybody.
Girl, I'm almost old enough to be your mama then. I don't know why that just hits me so hard sometimes because it's like, oh, yeah, we just chit-chat, and then you tell me how old your mama is, and I'm like, dang, I could be talking to my kid. That's crazy. If nobody's ever told you this, the older you get, the faster time flies. And that is 100% true. You will meet people and think, yeah, I'm about their age, until you start talking to them. And then you realize that, yeah, they're probably 15 to 20 years younger than you.
I actually have one of my closest friends. We were going back to school, and my middle daughter, she was about 8 weeks old, I guess, 7 weeks. And so with her daughter, they're about a few weeks apart. And we became so close in school. Our girls were the same age, like everything. And it's been a big joke for a while now. And I do it in public sometimes when we're together. I say, "Hey, Mama," because she has a son that's just, about 4 or 5 years younger than me, maybe. And then we have daughters that are the same age, and we like work together. And like she's like one of my best friends. But I pick on her sometimes. And I'm like, "Hey, Mom."
It'll come back to bite you. Some young spring chicken going to find you one day and say, "You know what? You just remind me of my mama. You're like a motherly figure."
Funny.
Well, thank you so very much for being a guest on our podcast. We have had people ask about the different scenarios. The bio mom's not really in the picture. And it makes me sad for the little boy that his mom really didn't want him, but I'm glad that he's got you.
I'm just really glad he doesn't notice. I think that makes it a lot easier for all of us if he doesn't really notice or doesn't, just kind of.
He hasn't seen her in a year and a half, right?
He hasn't seen her in, I would say, so over 2 years, and that was just like FaceTime. But I would say over 2 years since he's like seen her face.
Right. So do you think he understands that you're not his mom?
I'm thinking he might starting to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think for a long time, that he did realize. But like yesterday when he was asking those questions about going to her house or something, and my husband kind of like cut his eyes at me and was like, "What do I say? What are we supposed to say here?" And I was like, it's really hard because when you see him interacting and doing stuff in a size, you're like, "Oh, we need to like walk on eggshells. We need to, like we would with our baby, But then I'm sitting here, or yesterday I was sitting there thinking, I was like, he's 6.5. He just made 100 on a spelling test in school. So he's really not, on that level. I said, you can, I guess, just be honest with, be honest with him now. He's 6, he's asking, and you're stuck. And so he did. My husband was like, "No, I think you're better off here. She's I forgot what my husband said. Either she's sick or she's not taking care of herself. Like she's not okay, not okay right now. Like you're better off here." And he was just like, "Okay." Like he's never cried for her. Like even like 50-50 custody. He's never cried for her. He's never asked for her. Like my kids probably, they don't last very long without asking. And the baby, she's not going to go very long either.
I wonder why your daughter brought that up about him going to his mom, since he hasn't really went to his mom's in so long.
We hadn't, because this was as we were pretty much walking out the door yesterday, so it didn't really, we didn't really have enough time to like take it all in. And
right.
And I'm thinking she might have not really been like, "Oh, you need to go to your mom's" kind of thing, but more like it was better when it was just me, mommy, and my middle one. Like when you were at her house, like not really telling him to go, but like it was better
when we all weren't together.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I remember one of the stepkids saying something to my son because we moved into David's house, and I think they were putting like lights on the Christmas tree, little ceramic Christmas tree or something. And so my son was trying to participate, and they were like, "No, we always do this." And I looked at my husband, and thankfully he was like, "Well, you need to let him participate too." So he always tried to include him in that stuff. But it always kind of, I guess, bothered me that he doesn't have that closeness with them that they have. If we went to, say, Wendy's, for instance, they would all go get in their own little booth, and then there's my kid just standing there.
Yeah.
It's hard. And your daughters know that you're not his mom, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I know that's got to be hard on them, too, to kind of understand what's going on.
And that's what I told my husband, because he, like I said, he's not an emotional person. He's not he's just chill in the time that he's in and just goes with it kind of thing. And so he's not understanding what's going on with my stepson, what he's been through, where a 6-year-old should be, where he's not, where he is. And the same with my older daughter. He's she is, because my biggest thing was my stepson wouldn't talk. He would just cry for something. And so I would be I would say, dry it up and use words. And because he could. And then so he'll even say something like that when my 9-year-old starts talking or crying. He's she's 9. Remember when I was they're not brainwave wise, was she doesn't understand this. So he doesn't understand their emotions either. So that's been really hard. And so she'll lash out, not a lot. But she has lashed out, I would say, over the last month a couple times, what she hasn't done before. She's very protective of my stepson. But she's lashed out at him a few times the last couple weeks or so. And my husband's why is she doing this? And why is she acting like this? Why did she hit him? Why did she, I think yesterday, maybe, she had a morning dentist appointment. We came home and she hit him. And my husband's why? And she's because he doesn't have to go to the dentist. And I'm we're what is this? And she's and then she would do it. And I kind of caught on because I know her behaviors and I know autism and ADHD and all of this is she's lashing out at him because he totally flipped her world upside down. And it's coming, it's been years. That's all she's known for the last 4 years was him, whether it was 50-50 or full time, he was always there. And my husband's but why? I was she was the oldest. You don't understand. And then for a good while, it was just me, you, and my 2.
And girls, all girls.
And then that's the thing is she's just and my husband doesn't understand the stuff is he's defensive of stepson, all the time. I could say, we could say something to him and he'd be oh, would you say that to? Yes, I would. Stop being defensive.
Yeah.
And so, but then you can't be defensive of the 2. You can't be defensive of any of the other ones. I couldn't.
Right.
You have to see that. She's seeing that too. You're super defensive of him. He just showed up here, not really. He was always there, but in her eyes, and everything's changed. I have to split homework time with him now, and I have to, he has to pick out his clothes. He has to pick out his toy. He's in her world. And she doesn't know how to express those emotions, especially if she's gotten these hormones that are starting to throw in there.
Yeah. A lot of times we forget to think how the other kids are affected. We get so wrapped up as stepmoms in the struggles that we face. But talking about your husband, and him not understanding the difference between how you feel about his son and your kids, I wonder if that's because their dad's not in the picture. If their dad was in the picture, of course, he probably wouldn't have adopted them, but maybe them not having their dad in the picture makes him see them more of his kids.
And I do think that does play a factor into it with him. And they were very young. And when we did get married, their dad, which was another factor into it, their dad was also living in the same state as my current husband and birth mom. So we were all 4 living in the same, 10 miles of each other.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And so then we were there, and my ex-husband wanted to pretend like, oh, my kids, you know. And really what it was his current wife was having some fertility issues and was living it through my children. And so then I think my husband saw that too, that even when he did decide to show up for a few weeks or a month or whatever it was, that he played favoritism to his own children, and he was a really crappy dad, and that my kids like needed him. You know what I mean? Like they were like craving his attention, and they were, you know, they already saw him as their dad too.
Dad. Yeah. I need to wrap this up because I will talk forever, as everybody knows. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and helping other stepmoms that are in a blend that's similar to yours where the bio mom's not active.
Thank you for listening.
Well, we wish you the best. And if you ever want to reach out again to be a guest on the podcast, just let me know.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right, David.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a testimonial.
Can I get a witness?
Yes, you can get a witness. This person says, nachoing saved my relationship with my stepdaughters. This method has been a saving grace in our family. Woo!
Is that what it says on the paper?
No, I said woo.
Oh, okay.
Y'all, it works.
Yep, it does.
It works.
I do have to say something, though.
Uh-oh.
And I'm saying this because I'm starting to see a trend here.
Uh-oh.
I'm calling it the 80-20 trend.
Uh-oh.
I see people that are using nachoing, or at least the disengaging part of it, or they're joining the academy for a month or whatever, and they're starting to see things turn around. And it's almost like the edge is kind of taken off of the problems, or they get into it enough to where they go, all right, this is working. This is great. Things are good now. And they just kind of stop. And so that's like they get 20% of the way there, and then they stop because it's not near as bad as it was.
Right, because nachoing is not just disengaging.
Right. But then I see these same people coming back and going, oh gosh, now it's worse than it was before. And it's like, man, if you would have just held on and kept going and got past that, you wouldn't have hit that same speed bump. Not to say that there's not going to be speed bumps, but you build yourself up with the tools that we give you and all that so that you can handle those things. But it tends to really kind of catch them by surprise because they're like, oh, things are great. And yeah, they're great because you were able to learn a few things to take the edge off. And but you have to keep going. Right, because remember, the goal of nachoing, or the Nacho Kids method, is to re-engage with the stepkids in a non-parental role. Yep. One kind of like the fun aunt. Mm-hmm. I am the fun aunt to my stepson. You are the fun aunt. Yes, you are, David. You are the fun aunt. I'll tell y'all, I had a text message or a Facebook message from one of my stepkids. He liked something I wrote on the other stepkids post on Facebook, and he thought it was hilarious. And he was like, "Stepmama," because that's what I always put. When I sign their cards or something, I put a stepmama with a bunch of M's and a bunch of A's. And it was because I hadn't responded to him. So he's like, "Stepmama." And then he's like, "Why are you ignoring your nacho?" I'm so glad they love Nacho Kids. And what was that you said you were going to reply back? You didn't want to taco about it? Yeah, I was going to reply back and say, I don't want to talk about it. Taco about it? Taco about it. Taco about it. Yeah, because there's like this little funny cartoon that has a taco and a nacho chip, ain't it? A nacho chip. And there's a conversation and it's like, I don't want to talk about it. And then this one goes, man, he was jalapeno business, wasn't it? I hope I conveyed that okay. Yeah. Anyway. I may have to find it and put it in the show notes so you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. So until next time, I know, don't cry. We'll be back next week. We'll see you again. David, I seriously doubt anybody cries when we... Are you kidding me? Well, you know what? We do have an episode that's coming up really soon that will probably make you cry. I'm going to put a disclaimer. Don't listen to this while you're driving. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but it has a good end. Well, good. And this person also is somebody that we met at the Stepmoms Alive conference. All righty. Now everybody's ready to hear more about that show. I don't know. Is it next week or is it just coming up?
It's coming up in the next several weeks.
Okay. All right. We'll be looking for it. We'll be looking for that disclaimer.
Yeah.
All right. So until next week, remember,
life is good
when you nacho.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.